Hey, what's up, fellow figureaholics? Coming to y'all today with just a quick review and discussion on the Hot Toys Batman and Robin figures from Batman Forever. Now, there's already been at least a dozen or so reviews of these guys on YouTube, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time just rehashing over all that. Good chance at this point, you've probably already made up your mind one way or the other if you're going to get these guys or not. But just in case, maybe I can add a few thoughts that will help sway you one way or the other. Now, full disclosure, I grew up on Batman Forever. I'm no longer really a Batman Forever fan per se. It's when that film came out. It's the first Batman film I ever saw in theaters, and I loved it as a kid, and it was my favorite Batman movie for many years. And then in my teens, I kind of forgot about Batman for a while, and then Batman Begins came out when I was 20, and so from then on, it just gave me a whole new love and respect for Batman. But it also caused me to look back at this movie and pretty much all the movies from Batman '89 on, and kind of look at them like, well, these were, I guess, okay for their time, but they're nowhere near as good as what we have now with the Nolan trilogy. And I think that especially goes for the Schumacher films. Now, of course, this is by far the much better of the two Schumacher films, but I guess part of the reason why I still went ahead and got these figures is because really just nostalgia, because this was my favorite Batman movie when I was a kid. It came out when I was 10 years old. It was a huge summer blockbuster. I got the mugs from McDonald's. Some of y'all remember those little glass mugs of Batman, Robin, and the Riddler, and Two-Face. But given who starred in this movie and the characters that were in it, it's nowhere near as good as it should have been. It's really just, in my opinion, just not a good film. But I can still watch it today and get some enjoyment out of it, mainly for nostalgic purposes. And so, the other reason I got these two, though, was because I mentioned in a previous video that I sold off most of my Star Wars collection, and I had a pre-order with a Collector Zone on the Quill and Barg set, and I decided to cancel that order because I no longer want to collect Star Wars. But I didn't want to just cancel the order because, I mean, with these smaller retailers, it's really aggravation to them when you cancel an order. So don't do that if you can keep from it. But I decided to, because these two together were a fairly similar price, I decided to order these instead, and kind of as a sort of a replacement for that Star Wars set. And so I also thought this would go well in my collection because I'm looking long term at coming up with a sort of a Batman timeline display of 6 scale figures, starting with Adam West and Burt Ward and going all the way up through Robert Pattinson. So sort of a Batman kind of through the years display, and these will fit really well into that. So that combined with the nostalgic factor, it just made sense to pick these guys up. Again, I had that order placed with Collector Zone anyway, and instead of just canceling the order, I just wanted to order these instead. And I still did pay a small fee for canceling that order, but it wasn't as big of a fee as I would have paid otherwise had I not ordered these in replacement of that. So anyway, just that wasn't planned. It was just something I decided to sell off Star Wars and start just focusing mainly on Batman. So this really just is something. These were not figures that I pre-ordered for a long time when they were first announced, but it was just a couple months ago that I finally pulled the trigger on these, and I'm really glad I did. So I'm not going to go into super intricate detail point by point. If you all have seen the other reviews, then you kind of know what you're getting. You're gonna have an idea. And so when these guys came, so Batman arrived a few days ago, and then Robin just arrived yesterday, and I got exactly what I expected to get out of these two, and that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. So these are both, I think, very well done, and I plan on probably leaving them in these poses that you see here as well, because, well, just like the suits in real life, they're just not superposable. You're not going to get a ton of articulation out of these guys, but the suits are very well sculpted, very well done. And so if we look at, let's take a look at Batman first. It's a pretty good likeness to Val Kilmer. Now, even though I didn't like the film Batman Forever, I thought Val Kilmer was an excellent Batman. I'm actually probably the minority, but I like him better than Michael Keaton as how he portrayed Batman and Bruce Wayne. One thing that's interesting about the film Batman Forever is that it's really the first film that really goes into some depth on Bruce Wayne and the pain that he went through in losing his parents. Not until Batman Begins did we ever see anything that surpassed that. I thought Val Kilmer played that brilliantly. And so this is, I think, a good likeness to him under the cowl. I'm glad they went with a sonar suit as well, because we've already gotten the suit that he wore through most of the film is similar to what we saw in Batman Returns. It's a little bit different, but we've already got Batman '89 and Batman Returns from Hot Toys. So this is an entirely new look for Batman that we have not yet gotten from Hot Toys. And so the cape that comes on, if you all have ever owned the Justice League Batman, I heard someone else say this in their review. I forget who it was, but they mentioned that this cape is very similar as far as the look and the texture of it. You can kind of see it's very similar to the Justice League. Now, I never had the regular Justice League Batman. I just had the tactical version, but this cape does look and feel very similar to that. I like the way it hangs. It's better than average for a Hot Toys cape. And again, the articulation is actually better than I expected, though. He does come with double joints at the elbows, so his arm can actually bend up. All the way to there. And same thing with Robin. Look, if you look at how Robin's holding his Batarang. The upper body articulation is actually pretty good. So you guys ab crunch, it moves back and forth a little bit. Again, I kind of like these guys where they're at in their current poses, and it's hard for me to hold the phone and move them around at the same time. And again, there's plenty of other videos if you want to see their posing. But the elbow bend is good. The problem is if you move the arm up at all, if you move the arm up and out, you'll start to see the suit kind of bunch up. And if you own any other Batman figures from Hot Toys, you've probably seen something similar. So, and with the legs will come out this way a little bit, but they won't come forward very far. So, and again, that's not Hot Toys. That's just the design of the suit, just the nature of the beast. That's the way these suits actually were. They were very restrictive. But again, so the cape is very nice. Suit's nicely done. If you look at these bases, this is the same kind of base that we got with the Batman and Joker from the '89 figures, but Hot Toys cheaped out. Once again, they've been known to do that here lately. So these lights do not work. There is what used to be a battery compartment on the underside of these. But as you can see, that has been sealed off. There's nowhere in there to actually put batteries. These stands do not light up. So you have so you have what should be a light up feature right here on these stands, but Hot Toys just basically re-released, just created the stands from the '89 figures, but unlike those, these don't have the lights. It's like they just didn't bother to, even though these cost way more than the Batman '89 figures did, and those were DX. Came with way more accessories than these guys. There were light features on here, and these guys don't have any of that, and yet they cost more than Batman anyway. The Keaton Batman, I think, retail for about $230, $240, and then the Joker, I think, retail for about $260, $265. And again, that was standard retail through Sideshow. You could have easily gotten those for cheaper than those prices, which I did back in the day. And so they re-released these stands, and they did resculpt the plate to put the Batman Forever logo, and that looks pretty cool. But here again, I mean, nothing lights up, even though you have the bulbs, you have the battery compartments. They didn't bother with any of that, actually giving us light features on these stands. What I'll probably do is I might even might even just take these bases and kind of hang them up behind the figure so you can see the figures with the Batman Forever logo on these plaques hanging up behind these guys. That's kind of what I'm envisioning. Because what I do right now, until I can actually end up getting a Maji case, which won't be for a while yet, I put these in individual display cases, and these stands are too wide to actually fit in those. But I may be able to get these hanging up on the back, or just behind them on the shelf. I don't know. I'll do something with these because they do look pretty cool as far as that logo goes. But there's no light features or anything like that, which is disappointing. But it's kind of what we can expect. So, with that being said, what else does Batman come with? So it comes with this thing. I'm not even fully sure what it is. I guess this is supposed to shoot out. Someone in another review mentioned this looks kind of cheap. It's not just the way that it's painted, and I would agree. It doesn't look like anything actually from the movie at all. It looks like what you get like with a Hasbro toy or something. He comes with that Batarang that he's holding. He comes with that Batarang that Robin is holding, because Robin doesn't get any of his own stuff. And more on that in a minute. You have this piece that goes around his wrist. This little Batarang can come off. And this can actually go in there, so it looks like he's actually shooting out the Batarang. So that was a nice touch. Some extra wrist pegs. And also comes with this. Again, it's been a long time since I've seen Batman Forever. I'm not an expert on all the gadgets that he had, but this is something I assume he shoots this out. This is the main thing that I remember, where he throws it and busts that thing behind the Riddler that destroys his machine. Then these are the sonar eyes, which are pretty cool. I don't plan on displaying them with that, but it's good they give us that option. And again, these are the hands that he comes with. So gripping hands and fists, pretty much all the usual stuff. Hands to hold the accessories. So you got the two hands that come on him. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 additional hands. And then I do want to mention this, because this was annoying. So I did. This does have adjustable eyeballs inside the cowl, and so you actually use this tool. You use this side of it. This is similar to what we've seen with the Justice League versions. You insert this into either of the two eye sockets in the back, and you adjust the eyes that way. But then if you want to pull the eyes out, which I had to do a couple of times because I had such a hard time adjusting the eyes inside the cowl. I just took the eyes themselves out and then adjusted them, the eyes in the direction that I wanted, and then put them back in. But also, if you plan to switch and use these instead, then you'll have to use this tool. And the instructions just tell you to hook this up like that in the back when it's inside the cowl and pull it out. And it does not, for me, it did not come out that easy. And I was actually worried that I would break either this tool or the back of the eye plate. I was worried something would break. So what I finally just had to do is I hooked this into the back of the eye plate, and pulled as far as I could go, and then I used this side to kind of push on the eyes from this side, and and then it came loose. That's the only way that I could get the eyes to pop loose. So adjusting the eyes, and then removing and replacing the eye plates. I mean, it was just kind of aggravating, and I kind of missed the old days where there was a magnetic piece that went on the back of the head, and you could just pop that off and then adjust the eyes from there without hardly even needing a tool. So I don't know why they decided to make it that much more difficult, but I guess one good aspect of that is you don't really get any kind of unsightly seam or anything on the back of the cowl, which would be necessary if they had a plate you could just take off. So that it does enhance the aesthetic of it, but it's kind of annoying to deal with. So just remember, when you hook this to the back of the eye plate and go to pull it out, if it doesn't want to come out, you'll want to push the eyes a little bit from the front. But be careful when you do that. You don't want to rub any of the paint off. So that's kind of what made that annoying, because it's like, okay, do I risk, breaking this, or the one that's in it, from the back, or do I risk rubbing the paint off by pushing the eyes out from the front? So just kind of a minor annoyance that really should not be there with something this expensive, especially when we've seen Hot Toys do far better in terms of, if they're going to give us an adjustable eyeball rolling system, and give us something a little bit more user-friendly than that. But just something to be aware of. And so this is all the stuff that Batman comes with. Again, I think Batman retail for $255 and Robin retail for $245. So Robin retail for only $10 less, and yet he doesn't really get anything. That's what Robin gets. You got the extra wrist pegs and these extra hands, and then the hands that come on him, and the stand. $245, and not including tax and shipping and all that. But Batman comes with enough stuff that you can give him one of Batman's accessories, which is what I've done here. They even include hands like this one that are meant to hold accessories. So here you've got a fist. He's got a fist that comes on him, so you got two fists. You got like a splayed open hand, and then you got a gripping hand, like an open gripping hand, and then the hand that has a very kind of a narrow grip on him that's perfect for holding this Batarang. So it's kind of like they thought Hot Toys just didn't want to bother giving him all these accessories, knowing that you'd get Batman probably, and you would just give Robin Batman's accessories. So Hot Toys just, I guess, didn't think it important enough to give Robin any additional accessories, even though he only cost $10 less than Batman. And really, I don't know why you'd get one without the other. I heard someone else say, why not? I don't know why they didn't just put these out in a 2-pack. Same thing with the Adam West and Burt Ward, Batman and Robin from a few years ago. I don't know why they didn't just release those in a 2-pack together. I mean, why would you get one without the other? But anyway. So again, the suit, very good quality and feel. It's not so, unlike this atrocity, where you have that big bulge right there with that air bubble. Thankfully, this actually hugs the body. It's like right up against it. And same thing here. So texturing on the suit and all that is good. Again, Batman's cape is good. Robin's cape is not as good. And I think Justin mentioned this in his review. It's just more of a kind of a pleather on the back, and then like a really thin kind of cloth on the inside. But I mean, it looks okay, but it's kind of more in line of what we typically get when it comes to Hot Toys capes, which is to say not the greatest, but it'll work. I mean, it's serviceable. So, but overall, yeah, I mean, when I got these and set these two up, these guys, as you can see, just look phenomenal standing together. So if you're a big fan of this film, if you haven't got these already, I'm assuming if you're watching this and you are a big fan of the film and you've got the cash to pony up to get these guys, you've already done it. But if not, if you're on the fence, if you're a fan of this film, then I would say do not hesitate any further. Go ahead and get both these guys if you can. Use payment plans, do whatever you got to do. Sell something that's currently in your collection that maybe is less valuable to you personally, that you'd be willing to give up and get these guys, because I mean, when you actually get them out and set them up, they look incredible. And yeah, when it comes to posing, you're kind of limited, but I'm probably going to leave mine this way. And yeah, so if you look at that, it's pretty good detail. So not even being a huge Batman Forever fan, I mean, I still think these are awesome. I've not regretted for 1 second picking these guys up, despite the high price point, which I guess, considering what Hot Toys figures are going for now, they continue to get more and more expensive. I think $245 is a bit much for Robin, but $255 for Batman Forever, by comparison, is not bad. I mean, again, this monstrosity over here was $255, and we saw that was just a significant downgrade from the original Batman Begins. And yet they charged $255 for it. It came with less stuff and just had less effort thrown into it, and all reused parts. So here it's just, you got all new stuff, and so it's very well done. And if y'all are anything like me, I mean, I was really surprised when I found out that Hot Toys was making figures of this, because Batman Forever is a pretty divisive movie. It's Batman and Robin, the movie, is not divisive at all because everyone hates it, realizes that it sucks, and it's so that's it's not really divisive. But this movie is divisive in that some people like it and some don't. What's interesting about Batman Forever, though, is I've noticed it seems to have undergone kind of a resurgence over the last few years. To me, when I think of this movie and the journey that it's gone on in terms of its relation to fans, it reminds me a lot of Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. As different as these two movies are plot wise, when both of those movies, Batman Forever and The Phantom Menace, they were released to like made a lot of money, big huge blockbuster, a lot of anticipation, a lot of hype, and then after it came out, a lot of people were just like, wow, this was kind of disappointing. The dialogue, the plot, the acting, a lot of it was just kind of lackluster. And so for especially when you had the Dark Knight trilogy to compare this film to, I mean, this in the past 15, 20 years, it seems like this movie was just kind of a laughing stock. It's just kind of a joke. And to some people, it still is kind of a joke, but I've been hearing more and more about how, hey, this was part of my childhood. I mean, I grew up on Batman Forever, and I love this movie and still do. And I've been hearing that a lot. And like I said, even for me, I kind of, I guess I look on this movie a little bit more favorably than I once did. It was like, it came out as when I was a kid, I loved it, and then I grew up and saw the Dark Knight trilogy came out, and I thought, wow, that movie was just total garbage. How could I have ever liked it? But now looking back at it now, I still think it's a bad movie, but it's got some redeeming qualities. I thought Val Kilmer and Chris O'Donnell were just fantastic in their acting in these roles. Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones, not so much. Two of my favorite villains and two of my favorite actors, and yet it was atrocious. Two bumbling Joker knockoffs is what it seemed like to me. But I don't really blame them. They did the job they were paid to do. They did what they did with what they were given. But I thought the way that the Batman character was written and portrayed by Val Kilmer was just fantastic. And again, they did a really good job introducing Robin too. It's kind of hard to introduce a character like Robin in a way that makes sense on screen in a live action context with Batman, and kind of keep things dark and serious, like true to the Batman character. But bringing Robin into that and making it work seems like would not be the easiest thing in the world, and yet I think they succeeded as far as Robin goes, as far as the acting and the portrayal and the way that showing him having lost his family and the rage and the grief, and I think they captured that pretty well. So again, kind of like with Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, the prequels in general, but especially with The Phantom Menace, it's like those movies came out to a lot of hype, and then the years afterwards, people were like, wow, these films are garbage. But now it's people that grew up, the people who were kids when those films came out are now adults, and they're saying, hey, the prequels were what I grew up on. I loved it. I mean, that to me, that was Star Wars. And so the prequels are just in general are going through just a big resurgence of popularity. And we're seeing that seems like with Batman Forever as well. I don't think we're going to see that with Batman and Robin, although I do think if Hot Toys did an Arnold Schwarzenegger Mr. Freeze, y'all would get it. You would. I would be tempted. I don't know if I would or not, but I would be tempted. Not a George Clooney Batman for sure, but possibly a Uma Thurman Poison Ivy. I don't know. I probably would pass on that, but many of you would probably get that too. And definitely the Arnold Schwarzenegger Mr. Freeze. I mean, it'd be hard to pass on that. But so again, this movie is divisive because so many people think it's great, and so many people just think it was awful. And to me, I think overall it was a bad movie. I think there were awful things about it, and I think there were some really good things about it. And that's why. But to me, nevertheless, I think these two belong in my Batman timeline display that I'm putting together. So again, we just moved into a new house, so everything is still in boxes, everything's still in piles. I don't know when I'll be able to get everything out and set up the way I want it. Take a pretty long time, but I've kind of had that vision for a while of just when I had the room and the space, which now I do, to put together a 6-scale Batman timeline. display, and these would fit into that really well. One final note: if you're still on the fence, if you're not sure whether to get these figures or not, I want to make one note about long-term value. Will these figures hold their value? Will they go up in value? Will they go down? Can you wait on these for a while? Can you wait for these to hit eBay and get them for below retail? If so, how long? And that's always a tricky question. I know when the best figures to compare these two, really, I think, are the Adam West and Burt Ward Batman and Robin that came out from Hot Toys back in 2015 or so. And I expected those figures to sell out quick, and they actually took years to sell out. They took years to go up in value, and the Batman figure did not even go up in value until after Adam West died. Then that one jumped way up in value, and then the Robin figure has been slowly but gradually catching up. I think the Burt Ward Robin, which retailed for $190, now goes probably in the $200 to $300 range. Last I checked, and I haven't checked in a while, to be honest, but it took a long time for those two figures, despite that show's popularity. Just it's iconic. I mean, Adam West and Burt Ward. But as iconic as that show was, and as those portrayals were, it took a long time for them to climb up in value. And it could have been because just of how many of those figures Hot Toys made. Just like the Christopher Reeve Superman, they produced so many of those that it took forever to sell out. So we don't know, because we really never know how many of each of these figures did Hot Toys make. We don't really know. I don't know if my guess, and it's just a stab in the dark, they probably didn't anticipate huge demand for these. I mean, they probably did know that a lot of collectors now, guys my age, guys in their 30s and 40s, or and even 20s, are the main demographic, I think, that collect these kind of figures. And so a lot of us grew up on Batman Forever, and so Hot Toys may have figured out just the nostalgic element. But again, this was never this has never been a universally loved movie. It's always been divisive. And so if I just had to guess, I would say they probably did not produce as many of these as they would produce of the Adam West or Burt Ward, or the Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson, or any of the figures from the Dark Knight trilogy. Because, again, this movie was not as loved overall as any of those were. So, all that to say, if you're on the fence, I mean, so let's say you're like me and you're a Batman fan in general, and you have a bit of a soft spot for the Batman Forever film, but overall it's definitely not one of your favorites. You could go either way. Well, then you could probably go without owning these, and I would recommend just checking eBay, checking Mercari, and checking the Facebook groups. You could probably get these for just over the next few months. You could get these for below retail. But, I mean, that is a risk. And one thing you have to keep in mind, I mentioned Adam West and how his death made that figure value go up. And so, you can argue the ethics of it, whether it's right or wrong, all day. But one thing to keep in mind is that we've seen it over and over again. When a famous and beloved actor dies, if he has a high-end figure like this of a character that he played, all those figures go way up in value. I mean, we saw it with Chadwick Boseman, the Black Panther. We saw it with the Adam West Batman. We're seeing that somewhat, to some extent, right now with Jason David Frank, the 3-0, Green Ranger, and White Ranger. Those all got bought up right away. I think the Green Ranger is being re-released, but the White Ranger went from being like a $125 figure to like a $250 to $300 figure. Because now, like anything with him is just, especially something at that level of quality, like 1/6 scale, those 3-0 figures of him are now much more sought after because of his death. So Val Kilmer, just keep in mind, I mean, as we all know, he's not in the greatest of health, and we don't know how long he's going to be around. Hopefully he gets plenty more good years, but say if Val Kilmer, y'all know this is true, if Val Kilmer were to die today or tomorrow, anytime soon, that this figure would quickly sell out and would be going for ridiculous prices, $500, $600, $700 on eBay. And so that's just something to keep in mind when you're making a decision about these. But again, if this is if you're a Batman Forever fan, if you like that movie, you're able financially to get these figures, then go for it. Absolutely. I mean, this is what this is in line with what we have come to expect from Hot Toys in terms of overall quality. Again, I wish Robin had gotten more accessories, but you're not going to get Robin without Batman, and Batman's got enough accessories for both of them. I mean, I wish Hot Toys had given us more, hadn't cheaped out on us, but I mean, they did that knowing full well that you're going to get both of these, and that Batman has enough accessories to make up for Robin's lack thereof. So, but yeah, just keep that in mind, though. I mean, if you're really wanting these, if you're still kind of on the fence, but you're leaning towards getting them, I wouldn't wait too long, because unlike the Adam West and Burt Ward figures, I'm guessing they didn't produce quite as many of these, and that once they're gone, they're going to be gone, and a lot of collectors are going to be lamenting that they missed out. So those are all just things to keep in mind. But what I think will happen, assuming that Val Kilmer lives several more years, I'm guessing that these will take a long time to sell out, and during that time they will plummet on eBay. Not plummet, but they will go down in eBay. You'll probably be able to get Robin for probably right around or below 200. You'll be able to get Batman for right around or below 220 to 230. You'll be able to get these guys. I'm just saying, as someone who's collected for almost 15 years and who's got most of my stuff off of eBay, and who watches that stuff all the time, I'm telling you, these guys will, until they sell out, Robin will go for around or even below 200. Look at 180 to 200, somewhere in there. And Batman will go about 220 to 230, and you'll even occasionally maybe see one pop up for 200 or 210 if someone's looking to get rid of theirs quickly. But eventually, once they do sell out, I think they will go up in value over time. And again, there's new collectors coming into the hobby all the time, and those collectors will be after these, and just collectors in general will be after these. Once they sell out, they will go up in value, I think, pretty substantially. Again, that's all if if Val Kilmer's health holds up. I mean, it could be if he passes away soon that both these figures, but especially the Batman, will sell out a lot sooner. So if you really want these figures, best thing to do is just get them now, just to be sure. But if you're kind of ambivalent and you'd rather wait and score a deal, then it's always a gamble. You never know for sure, but I would keep checking eBay, and I think over the next several months, I think it will take these guys a while to sell out. I could be wrong, but I'm just going based on past data that I've seen from similar figures. These could be hanging around for a while, and you could get deals during that time, but then I think once they're gone, it's going to be a whole other story. You're going to be paying a premium. So anyway, I hope all that helps, and thank you all for watching. See you in the next one.